Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast, and welcome to wherever you are listening around the world. It's great to have you here. So today I am recording this on Friday, February 20th, which is probably the most significant astrological shift of our lifetimes today. Today, Saturn and Neptune are coming into an exact conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. This is on the world axis point. This is a total reset, reshift, rework, redo of our existence today. And I am already feeling it in a big, big way. For months and years, I have been working with the very subtle energies and the unseen energies around Earth. And I've been receiving these visions, information as I've been doing this work, all kind of leading up to a complete reset. And obviously, we have a lot more to go, but this one is pretty significant because Saturn and Neptune always come back into a conjunction roughly every 36 years. But this one's quite different because they have not been at the 0 degree point, the starting point of the zodiac, in what we can best tell is over 6,000 years. Now, there's been no recording of this, obviously, because this is before things have been recorded and astrology has been recorded. But these two planets coming together at the exact start point, the starting gate of the zodiac, is extremely important because it is about a total reset. And in the sign of Aries, Aries is about taking charge, about embodying ourselves, about having the willpower and the strength to do something. And it has this kind of blunt force behind it because it is ruled by the planet of Mars. So it's this very fast moving and very big energy. And you combine that with the year that we're in. We're in the fire horse year. We just moved into the fire horse year a couple of days ago. And we have this amplification of double fire. And we're in period 9 of the Chinese astrology chart. And we've got 18 more years of that. So if you think of Pluto and Aquarius, it kind of is the same thing. But this fire energy is what's going to be on display. And so you think about fire, and we have no water in the chart this year at all, 0 water. So water contains fire. Without water, we have no way to contain the fire. So we have this double clash of fire energy, this yang and yin fire energy coming together. So this is going to amplify things. This is going to amplify power struggles, competition, you name it. So it's going to be extremely interesting here, to say the least. So let's talk about Aries, and then we'll talk about what this means potentially for you. I'm going to walk through what Neptune and Saturn both represent in the chart and hopefully give you a little bit of insight on what you could potentially expect with these transits happening. So Aries can operate in a couple of different ways, depending on, obviously, the consciousness of the energy. On the shadow side, or the lower conscious energy side, it's impulsive. It's extremely volatile. It's coarse. It's aggressive. It's reckless. This is the ultimate unbridled masculine energy. And this is what we have been seeing playing out on the world stage for quite some time. And if we think about kind of what's going on right now, it's interesting to see this very masculine, very patriarchal, very control and power hungry energy trying to gobble up everything it possibly can before the house collapses, the cards fall, right? So we're seeing that amplification. And normally, if you think about the Tower card in tarot, and you think about that image of the tower burning and there's a person falling out of the tower, it is the final climax, the final unfolding, the final piece before the tower collapses. And so we're at this end of the cycle, right? We've been leading up to this ending cycle. And this is what this reset is all about. Anytime we have a death, we have a rebirth. Okay. It's just, these are the tiny things that we go through every single time. We have these little tiny deaths and these rebirths that happen. And that's part of our evolution, right? That's the evolutionary work that we're doing in this human experience. So every single time we do this, we have this evolutionary shift and in consciousness. And so this is exactly what we're going through on a collective scale. So let's talk about what Aries is in its highest form. This is about helping us to survive. It is about allowing us to achieve our independence. It is about standing our ground. It is about learning new skills and making new choices. And what it does is it gives us that momentum and that drive to push through obstacles. So behind it, it is able to bring us success into the areas where we will direct that energy. So contained fire, controlled fire, if you've ever been to a controlled burn, that is a direct, very intentional force of using that fire energy to clear something out of the way, but it also transforms it, right? It brings in new life. So if you do a burn on a field, it helps to regenerate the soil, it helps to regenerate the plants and everything around it. And so it's a regeneration process. It's a transmutation process is what it is. And so if we attach to the highest form of Aries, that is where we can create great momentum and great change and great transformation for ourselves. So depending on which house Aries sits for you, this energy is definitely going to focus on different aspects of your life. Typically, Aries sits in the first house, which is the house of I am. This is about who we are. This is about our identity, our arrival into our incarnation, this human incarnation. And it's about the way that we see life and how the world and people around us view us too. It is the goggles we wear as we look at the world around us. So it is a very personal, it's a very personal sign. It's a very personal sign in the sense that it is all about who we are, our individuality. So as we have Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries at the starting point of the entire zodiac, in many ways, again, this is a reboot, restart, rework of sorts. And if we look at it from the highest octave, this is about reclaiming ourselves and pulling back our power. For too long, we have been pushed into this separateness. We have been isolated. If you think back to 2020, the isolation piece of that has been really intense. And now we are realizing, oh, wait a second, we actually need our community. And the beautiful thing about Neptune, which I'll get into in a minute, is it's about the wholeness. It's about looking at ourselves from the whole state, where Saturn is about defining ourselves. It's bringing definition and it's bringing structure to it. So this is going to be interesting for sure as we go through this. The other thing I want to touch upon is the world axis point. So the 0 degrees is a very important degree because it's complete. You're learning something new. This is something that is brand new, something that we have not experienced before. And what's interesting about the world axis point is that it is literally about the Trinity in many ways. It is about connecting, you hear the term as above, so below, but it's about this Trinity formation that is happening. And it is literally taking the things that are the universe, the heavens, whatever you want to call it, and you're also pulling the underworld or the elemental realm of the earth. And then in the center of that point is the person. It is the human being. And what I have been seeing and experiencing in those unseen realms and the work that I've been doing is I've been seeing that the galactic, the elemental, and the human are all coming together. We're merging together. And Neptune is about the idealism, the idealistic state of being, and the harmonious state of living that we potentially can and should be living in. Some people go back to the whole idea around the fact that the earth originally was built for all of this interconnectedness with different types of species, of different planetary delegations, all of these things living harmoniously together. And Neptune also represents the unseen. So it's about how do we tap into that subtle energy in order to connect into these different frequencies of energy that are already here and already around us. But how do we tune in more to that so that we can have that interconnectedness at a more deeper level? But Saturn is about the form. It is about how do we bring that into form? And in many ways, we have to do that. And it starts on an internal job. So Aries is about the I. So we have to start from within ourselves and look at that in order to bring this change about to the world and to build it from scratch. It is about building it from scratch. So this is where we are really at right now. Saturn's really the disciplinarian. It's not going to let us get out of anything, and it's going to force us to look at what we've been avoiding. So it's going to make us do the work, and it's going to ask us to take responsibility, whatever area of life we need to work on. And then Neptune has this ability to dissolve and expose whatever it touches, as long as it's operating from the highest expression, so the conscious expression. So for the collective, Neptune, again, is going to bring this about this new world, but Saturn is about stepping in to having to face the facts, face reality, swallowing the violet pill, the hard truth of what we all need to face. And it's so interesting to see what's playing out collectively right now, that there's been so much deception, so much things that have been hidden from us, that some of us have been in tune to, obviously, for a long time and realizing this stuff is going on. But now it's becoming so overwhelmingly obvious that there's no way for anybody on the planet to be able to deny, avoid anything. And if you're still in a denial state, things are going to get a little rough for you, because this is only the tip of the iceberg. This is the only like the little tiniest bit of what is getting ready to be exposed. So Neptune and Saturn are not going to be in a conjunction for too long. This is a very small amount of time, considering the transit timelines of these two signs. So Saturn is roughly going to stay in a sign for about 2.5, maybe 3 years, just depending if there's retrogrades and things like that going on. So it will move through Aries in the next 3 years, which are significant times. If you look at kind of the timelines of all the things that are shifting, that's a very important timeline with Saturn being there. Neptune, on the other hand, is going to be in Aries for 14 years. So we have a lot more time to work with us. And for the last 14 years, it's been in Pisces. So there's been a lot of haziness, disillusion, things that have been hidden, a lot of escapism. All of that stuff has happened because Neptune is typically, it rules Pisces. So it's very comfortable being kind of in this la la land delusional state. And so we've seen a lot of rise, especially around spirituality, and a lot of these very interesting things that have been going on in that realm as well. So we are shifting, and Aries is like, nope, we're not doing that stuff anymore. Nope, we're burning down the house. Nope, you're going to have to look at the truth. So it's a very different energy for sure. So let's talk about how this is going to impact you. So let's talk about it from the rising sign lens. So if you know your rising sign, you can go to astro.com and type in your birth information, and that first house is going to represent your rising sign. So if you are an Aries rising, this is going to be about the self. So this is all self-examination time for you. Taurus rising, this is going to hit the 12th house. This is all around tapping into those higher realms, the unseen, the unconscious, the karmic patterning that has been going on. Gemini risings, this is going to hit your 11th house. This is around groups, associations, and causes. Cancer rising, this is going to hit your 10th house. This is your career, your public image, and also your relationship with your most prominent parent. Typically, this is the mother. Sometimes it's the father, but it's the parental access point. For Leo rising, this is your 9th house. This is about the higher learning, travel, spirituality. Virgo rising, this is going to hit your 8th house. This is the unseen realms, the joint partnerships, the merging. This is about sex. This is about death. This is about the occult. So there's a lot of things going on within the 8th house. Libra, this is going to hit your 7th house of relationships. Scorpio rising, 6th house of day-to-day routines, your life, your job, your pets, how you take care of yourself. Sagittarius rising, this is going to be your 5th house for your identity, how you express yourself. Children are also part of this. Capricorn rising, this is your 4th house of home. And Aquarius rising, 3rd house, is going to impact your mind, your thoughts, your expression. And Pisces rising, 2nd house, your values, your money, and your possessions. So let's talk about Saturn in Aries. So Saturn is an earth sign. This is typically associated with the sign of Capricorn, the goat. This is the one who has great perseverance and tenacity to work hard and stick with it for the long-term goal. This is the energy that is not afraid to climb up the mountain of life and stick with it. Saturn is really about responsibility, and it's also about self-preservation. It is how you are when you have grown up, when you are an adult, when you have really taken responsibility and you have some life experience behind you. This is maturity energy. So what Saturn is asking us to do is take responsibility for ourselves. No one's coming to save us. It is up to each of us to do it for ourselves. And within Aries, we're going to need to really work on ourselves. Where do we need to put more attention into ourselves? What do we need to develop? And when we do the work, we have to start to have more strength, more fortitude, more knowledge, and ultimately more fulfillment for ourselves. This is about climbing the mountain of life. And we're going to encounter a lot of hardships along the way, a lot of challenges, a lot of growth opportunities. But what we are learning about ourselves during this journey is invaluable, because we have learned resiliency, and that we learn through Saturn that we can master the things that we want to master with diligence and with time. So it is time to grow up, folks. That is the big message with Saturn. It's time to grow up, and it's time to grow up within ourselves. And we've got to avoid no longer doing the work. You can't avoid it. Aries and Saturn are kicking our butt, and they're saying, nope, you can't avoid this anymore. You have got to actually face the truth. So, first house. This is Aries risings. This is going to be about the self. First house is about the self. So this is where we have a general need to be very disciplined about how we take care of ourselves and how we are approaching life in general. So Saturn is asking you to make yourself the priority. Make yourself the greatest project you've ever been. I mean, you are it. This is why you're here. This is why you're embodied. You are the greatest project. And it's okay to be working hard on doing that. A lot of times we try and wiggle out of that. We focus on other people. We focus on other things. But at the end of the day, we have to live with ourselves. And so you are the greatest project. If you have the second house, Saturn in the second house, this is about testing really your feeling around insecurity, inadequacy of your self-worth coming from within yourself, not from others. So you're working on your own value and your own self-worth and overcoming any lack of confidence that you have. Second house is about our value system. It's about our possessions. It's how we make money for ourselves, not sharing it, but how do we make money? And so this is asking us to really relook at this and restructure, and where do we need to put the work in and the discipline to do that? Third house, this is about how we think, how we express ourselves. It also can be related to our siblings and our extended family as well. But within this house, expression of the self is paramount. Here we are focusing on how we articulate our thoughts clearly, how we develop a clear and steady mindset, and how we find things that bring us joy around learning new things, learning new techniques, gaining knowledge. So Saturn is going to bring us a little bit more of that teacher mentality or that student mentality of being very disciplined around those themes. Fourth house is all around who we are in private. This is who we are behind closed doors. It's tied to our family of origin, our family lineage, and the home that you currently have created for yourself. And this may bring up some things around the family and the family lineage. In many ways, this ties it back to your identity within the family unit. So sometimes we can get lost within the family unit. We don't know kind of where we fit, or there's perceptions of us that have been projected based upon early childhood experiences. And so it's really about who you are now and finding your own identity outside of the family structure. And it's also about finding kind of your own inner strength. Here you can really find purpose and meaning of life here as well. And there may be more need to clear ancestral ties, ancestral trauma. That can be another thing that you may have to look at. You may have to look at some truth around your family and your family of origin and work to resolve any sort of conflict or any family trauma that has been present. Fifth house. So this is all about how you express yourself and your creativity. It's also related to romance, and it's also related to children. In many ways, Saturn can bring confusion about what lights you up here, and it can creep in a lot of doubt and insecurity as well. So the focus on this is to find ways that you can free yourself from the constraints and learn how to really express yourself more freely through the hobbies, the passions, even like relationships from a romantic standpoint, or through children, that it can help you be more free. The one thing to always remember about Saturn is not only does it bring restriction and discipline, but it also can bring a lot of fear. And so there can be a lot of fear about really, truly being who you are and about opening up yourself in a way that is going to really allow you to express yourself fully. So the fifth house is about doing that. Your sixth house is related to your day-to-day routines and your day-to-day life. So this is kind of the mundane. And this also can relate to work in many ways, just your day-to-day work. It also makes you, Saturn here makes you extremely dedicated and really good at being able to carry through on projects. However, this sign can also impact your physical well-being as well, since this house will also rule your health. So too much restriction on the self can look like restricting food, being very focused on over exercising, being trying to control the body and trying to control the physical piece. So what that really leads to is what are the unconscious thought patterns within the psyche, because the 12th house is in opposition to the 6th house, that are making these patterns come into fruition. On the other hand, the higher consciousness of it is allowing yourself to have these really very dedicated day-to-day routines, keeping you on a schedule, but make sure that you're not so restrictive that you're not flowing as well, and allowing yourself the permission to say, I don't feel like exercising today. I'm going to change my diet today, and not being so over consumed with that. The other thing too to be aware of is that if you're a workaholic, not overworking, not overstraining, not over restricting yourself, this year, especially because it's a double fire year, is going to put more pressure on all of us to act fast. And we have to remember to take a beat and to not move so quickly. We need a little bit more of a breather before we actually move forward on things this year. 7th house is all about your relationships, and this house is going to be impacted in a big way by Saturn, because again, fear is usually the driver with Saturn's patterns. And so there can be fear around relationships, losing a relationship, not being able to attract a relationship, all of those things. One thing to look at here with 7th house and relationships is you kind of got to go back to the 4th house and also the early conditioning houses, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th houses of the patterning of the parents and how you were raised. That is generally going to impact the 7th house in a big way. And so anytime I see Saturn there or some of the outer planet placements in the 7th house, we usually have to look at unconscious patterning that we've received early on that has restricted us in some way to fear relationships and fear opening up to other people. And sometimes Saturn will keep you in a situation longer than you should because it thinks it needs to stay disciplined and stay longer. It's looking for the long term, and that could be a great thing in many ways, right? Because relationships have ups and downs. It doesn't make you flaky and dart out. But this may light a fire under your butt if you have been in a relationship that you shouldn't be in any longer. So there could be changes there. This also relates to business partnerships too. 8th house is all around a deeper merging together. It's around intimacy. It's around sharing resources. And Saturn's not always super comfortable here. Part of addressing the energy of Saturn is about going deep below the surface and look at what's going on in the unconscious patterns. And Saturn, again, tends to fear this. You know, if we look under the hood, what are we going to find? But this is where we're going to find the answers to really help resolve and evolve in a bigger way. And relationships are our biggest growth opportunities, and these are the things that help us evolve at the greatest level. Is when we have relationships with each other, and we tend to choose people to be in our lives that are going to push us and help us evolve in a deeper way. Your 9th house is around the themes of religion, higher education, travel, spirituality. And this can bring great discipline. It can also bring restriction, though, and obedience to these areas of life. And this is really about pushing yourself to break out of the box, travel more, learn something new, allow yourself to open up to new ways of thinking or a new type of experience that's helpful in your growth opportunity. We're going to be pushed. We're going to be pushed to think outside the box. We're going to be pushed to look at things in a different way. We're going to be pushed into things we never knew existed, and those things are coming to light. So I think we're all going to be having a little bit of shock and awe, and we're going to have to get comfortable with allowing ourselves to adjust our minds and adjust our reality in a different way. 10th house is the most public house. This is the image and the career, and Saturn can be so great here. It can bring a lot of discipline and seriousness around that area of life. But our ego can take over, and we can place achievement over being kind with this placement. So we've got to really keep that balanced out. We also must look at our relationship with our parents, especially the mother in this placement, for more answers for unconscious conditioning. The mother can be seen as extremely strong and overbearing in this position as well. There can be fear of a parental figure in this placement. And so sometimes with Saturn here, there is that. There also can be fear of actually following your passion and doing the things that you really want to do for a career. And a lot of us are held back in those realms, especially around the arts. If you're an artist, poet, musician, we tend to choose safe jobs instead of really getting out and putting ourselves out on a limb to do the things we really are passionate about. And so we may have some changes here as a result of that. The 11th house is around our groups and associations. It's around causes and the things that we're really passionate about. And we have this pressing need to join with others. However, with Saturn, it can feel a little unstable and a little bit more hesitant to do that. There is so much focus on the individualness of ourselves with Saturn. And so this can be a little bit of a hesitancy to actually join groups. But this is where we have huge opportunities for growth when we have a circle of friends or we are attached to specific groups. And we, again, are going to see a lot more people banding together. And these uprisings that we're starting to see around the world are going to be much more prominent as we begin to restructure our reality. And finally, Saturn in the 12th. This is about digging into our unconscious patterns. It's asking us to go below the surface and to unearth where we are putting limitations on ourselves. So the self-doubt, the lack of trust, all of these things are going to be very prominent in a 12th house Saturn placement. And so this other thing that can happen too with Saturn in the 12th is feeling responsible for other people's issues or feeling responsible for taking on the load. Fear of intimacy could be another general underlying theme here. So we must be really disciplined and precise with our unconscious patterns and really looking at those in a much more disciplined way in order for us to evolve and to change. So Saturn is, as you can tell, a very heavy hitter. It is not messing around. In the next 2.5 to 3 years, we are definitely going to be focusing on this entire tearing down, rebuilding, having that structure and discipline in place so we can make that happen. So let's talk about Neptune. Neptune is such an interesting sign in general. It's very elusive. On one hand, it can dissolve boundaries because it understands that we are all part of something greater than ourselves, that we are one element of a whole element, and that we are all interconnected, and we're interconnected to all of the plants and the animals and the stars and the universe and all of this beautiful interconnectedness. And it has this longing to dissolve any boundaries of the self and the ego and experience the totality of the universe. This is an adept sign, and many times it will lose itself in order for that desire to be fulfilled. So Saturn is over here bringing us structure to our egos. Neptune wants to dissolve the ego entirely and merge with something greater than itself. So it's complete opposition, but we have to always remember that anytime we are working with an idea, a thought, an energy, and we want to actually turn it into a reality, we need that combination of Neptune. Neptune allows us to be in that state of creation, but we have to bring it into form in order for it to work within our physical structure and our physical reality that we are in. And so these two things actually are needed. They're opposition, but they also are beautiful when they work at the highest level. So Neptune is going to be important because it's going to allow us to explore the unconscious mind. It's going to allow us to explore things that are outside of ourselves, to develop our imagination, our artistry, our faith. And it allows us to tune into that subtle energy. This is about the intuition. This is about the subtle energies, these pattern recognitions, and being able to tune in with things and change our frequency in a way where we're able to basically turn the radio dial so we can tune into things that are usually not something that most people can tune into. And we are going to be experiencing much more of that piece, as well as the energies are shifting, the consciousness is shifting, the vibration is shifting. It's allowing us to actually merge with those energies that we have not been able to necessarily physically see before. And those are becoming more tangible to a lot of us who were already very sensitive and tuned into energies. We're starting to have real interactivity with energies that otherwise would be considered completely crazy. But we're tuning into them. And so that's going to happen more on a global scale. And I think, I believe that we just got news today that at least in the United States, there's an executive order that's been put out to say, release all the files on the aliens and everything we know about them. Of course, we'll see how much actually comes out, but this is going to be interesting as we move into this era where that's becoming more tangible and more of a reality. So the thing about Neptune is our empathy can be beautiful here because it is going to be used for the greater good, obviously. So as long as we're taking the higher mind and we're understanding the interconnectedness and the impact on each other, we are going to be very good. If we go to the shadow side and become either the victim or the savior, that's not going to be good. It's about staying in your coherence. And coherence is being able to observe everything from the 0 point, from the neutral point. Can you observe your emotions? Can you observe your behavior patterns? Can you observe this without judgment, without trying to fix it, any of those things? Can you stay more in that patterning as the world goes crazy? Remember, one thing that's going to happen this year is because there's so much fire that heats up our bodies, that heats up our minds, and people are going to be out of their minds this year. There's going to be people that you cannot reason with, you cannot talk to. So it's very important to be able to look at those situations more in a neutral zone instead of getting reactive to it. Okay? So let's talk about Neptune through the houses. So the first house, Neptune is not really sure about who they are. They are generally a mirror or a reflector to other people, and they tend to dissolve into people who are around them. Aries and Saturn are going to ask you to take more control of your I am. This is about being less accommodating and passive to other people in many ways. You still have your compassion and you still have your understanding, but the consciousness shift is about to learn more about yourself from that higher level. Saturn's going to force you to look at this in a more disciplined way. So it's no longer about not really understanding who you are. It is about really going into the depths of the unconscious to understand yourself from a higher perspective. And one thing that I'm receiving as I'm talking about this is it's about the merging of the higher self, the oversoul, the soul level, all the knowledge, all the information you've carried for lifetimes about coming into an embodied state. And many of us have been receiving this over time, but this is going to be on a bigger scale. It is about not having any more separation from your ability to connect in with all the skills you've learned in other lifetimes, of all the knowledge, of all the awareness of who you've been, and being able to bring that in to form. So it's huge. It's a huge shift. Second house, again, all around personal possessions, our self-value. And again, Neptune dissolves anything it touches. So when it comes to our personal finances and what our value system is, things can become very hazy and intangible here. Saturn is asking you to take a discipline with this area of your life. And it's going to force you to understand where you have allowed this to happen. Your personal value, your ethos is critical to have a sense of purpose and to have a sense of meaning. It's also about your full embodiment in this human experience. How do you navigate through this reality? We have to be aware of the world and what's happening, but we also have to be able to live within it. So we can't escape from it. Neptune would like to escape from it and be like, peace out, I'm good. I'm just going to be delusional about what's going on. We can't be delusional about what's going on. We have to be aware of it. But we also have to learn how to live within it without it over-consuming us and overtaking us. And that's a really important component of it. So there's going to be a lot more dissolving of the illusions that you've put around your values and around how you make money and your possessions and all of those things. So very important. Had to take a quick drink. Okay, third house, our mind, our ability to perceive, our ability to learn new things. Neptune is tuned into the undercurrents that you are not able to necessarily express easily, okay? This is about the clairs, right? Sensing, knowing, feeling, hearing, smelling, tasting, all about your clairs, your senses. Perhaps you've never really tapped into this aspect of yourself before. This is now the time to really put in the discipline to open up the channel. We need more mystics. We need more intuitives in the world. And we need more people tuned in and aware of the undercurrents of what's going on. Not what's being told or said at you, but what's actually lying beneath the surface. And a lot of people resist this because they're like, oh, it's woo-woo, no way. Very much in the third dimensional realm and tied into that reality. This is about really stepping into it and allowing yourself to be able to be a translator. But here's the key, is about using it with discernment, okay? We all have our own interpretations based upon our own lens of what we're feeling, experiencing, all of those things, especially as intuitives. But this aspect is really about tuning in. And a lot of it's about tuning it into yourself, because your intuition is your GPS. It is the thing that allows you to stay safe, and it navigates you through life. So this is an important component. Fourth house, Neptune can be very much the ultimate utopian experience for your home life, all of these things, right? Your early childhood could seem very idealistic, or it could feel like something that you're completely overwhelmed by and have absorbed the enmeshment of codependent trauma. So it can be one of two things. Neptune's beautiful because it can help us build the ideal home life. It can help us build the ideal world. Again, Saturn is asking us to first deal with the underpinnings of any family lineage or early childhood trauma that has lurked under the surface and address it. So again, it wants us to build something new for ourselves and for the collective, but we have to first start at home. We have to first start with ourselves and work our way out from there. And so Neptune in the fourth house could have a beautiful idea of how we could be living this very this merging, this trinity effect, this utopian experience, coming back to that. And so it can be at the forefront of helping us to develop that. But we've also got to look at ourselves first and make sure we don't get lost within the group structure, within the family unit as well. Okay, fifth house. What is your passion? And if you haven't been pursuing it, why not? What's been holding you back? Neptune in the fifth, you're giving ample room to express yourself fully, completely. And so this is really important to be able to fully embrace that. Okay, within the fifth house, we are forming our true identity by pursuing the things that light us up. If you've avoided being fully engaged with what really ignites your passion because you're too afraid of what other people are going to think, or you're unclear about what that is for yourself, this is the time to do so. Okay, you're going to get lots more clarity around this. This can also be focused on your romantic life and children as well. So this is going to give you more of dissolving the illusions that you've had around who you are and your identity and how to express yourself. Sixth house. Within your day-to-day life, this includes your work life, your daily routines, how you take care of yourself. Neptune is not as comfortable being here, okay? This house is generally ruled by Virgo. Virgo wants order. It wants discipline. It wants groundedness. It's an earth sign. It wants things to be functioning well. Neptune doesn't know where to begin. It's just floating around. So because of the Neptunian energy in this house, you're very open. You're very susceptible to the environment around you. And this can be a placement that's prone to a lot of energetic leaking and a lot of health issues from absorbing other people's stuff. So Saturn's going to give you much more structure through this. Aries is going to light that fire to burn away things that no longer serve you. And Aries is also connected to the physical body as well. So there may be more focus on your health and well-being and making the changes that are necessary in your life. That could be a change of job. That could be a change in your routine, a change in your health status. All of those things can be very focused here with Aries being there and Saturn giving you the discipline. So be aware that because of that Neptunian energy, you can be highly tuned in to things going on around you, and that can take an impact and give you an overload of energy and information that you are absorbing and holding on to. So it's about burning that away. Seventh house, relationship house. Again, Neptune can dissolve itself within relationships very easily. They can idealize something that's not really true within that relationship. And they can also place their needs on the back burner. So Aries is about the I. And if you've been placing more emphasis on your partner or feel like the relationships are difficult to grasp, Aries and Saturn is asking you, what do you really want in this relationship? What is it that I want? Am I being seen? Am I being heard? Am I being acknowledged? Am I being treated well? Those are sort of the questions that you're going to have to face with this and light a fire to get you moving a little bit. Neptune is a beautiful energy in a relationship because it wants harmony and it wants this beautiful idealistic relationship. But sometimes we got to face the truth that things are not always working out. And instead, let's manifest and let's look at the idealistic relationship for yourself, because it will provide you the higher mind in order to be able to identify what that is for yourself. Okay, eighth house. Neptune generally loves to be here because it's very similar to the 12th house where it's generally, at. And this house is all about merging with other people. It's all about dissolving the ego, dissolving the self, and merging with somebody else. It is looking at finances. It's also going to be able to tune into the undercurrents of the unseen realms. But it's also about the unconscious as well. What are things that are sitting under the surface that you're too afraid to look at, or things that you've been avoiding? So shared finances, sexual intimacy, merging, trusting other people at a deeper level. It's taking that seventh house relationship and really going deep within those relationships. So this is where we're really looking at this. And Aries may increase our sexual desires here. It may also tie into our masculine energy and our sexual drive in many ways. So there could be a lot of focus here around those issues. And again, look at your 12th house. This is going to give you some clues about what might be impacting that 8th house. And also, you got to look at the ruler of that house as well. So look at where your Mars is at in your chart, and that will give you some indication of what may be going on. 9th house, we're looking at the bigger picture of life here. We're seeking to merge with something greater than ourselves. So travels on the forecast, higher learning, exploring the depths of the mysteries of the world. How do we fit in with this, and how do we bring these ideals to the world? Make sure, though, that you're not getting wrapped up in some interesting groups or ideas. This can kind of get you into a delusional state with those type of things, i.e. cults. This is a prominent placement if you have Neptune here, that you could get really lost in things like that. And this transit's going to burn away those illusions. I think one thing that we're going to see on a global scale is around the ideas around organized religion. I think this is going to be one thing that's going to really be a major focus here is around that. And does that structure still work for where we are at in our evolution? So that's going to be a big, interesting part. 10th house, again, focus on public image and career choices. It can with Neptune here, it's about really wanting to bring beauty and idealism to the world this time, and that is so needed. It is going to bring more discipline, though, with Saturn and Aries. So it's going to give us some discipline and some drive to do that, which is good. The one thing that I think is going to be interesting for anybody who has Neptune in their 10th house in this, and this will hit Cancer risings. Cancer risings will do this. If there's prominent people that are out there in the world, this may expose their true identities at this time. So if they've not been operating from a place of integrity, this might come out in the public sphere. It's going to strip away a lot of illusion around people's personas. This is the fall of celebrity. This is the thing where the celebrity culture is not going to be as prominent moving forward. And it's going to push us to look at the truth of who they are and who we are, in our identity as it relates to, is my identity wrapped up in my career, in my ego, in my public perception of how other people view me? That'll be some things that we'll have to look at if you've got 10th house placements. And it also can be about the relationships with your parents, specifically your mother. So is there codependence? Is there fogginess around the relationship? We can also idealize people in this placement. And that may not be the case anymore. We may have that illusion stripped back. 11th house is about, again, great for if you want to attach to a great cause or a movement that's radically going to shift humanity. Again, we're in period 9 in Chinese astrology. So for the next 18 years, this is represented by that fire and burning down away the old system. So Neptune has a fantasy around this ideal. But with Aries and Saturn also going through here, there's going to be some brute force in changing the way that our communities look, around our structures, around our systems. All of that stuff is going to be very prominent here. And we're going to have to face some hard truths. And the beautiful thing about Neptune being here is that it can create the vision for what we can build next. So we need that visionary leadership as we turn this corner. And finally, 12th house. Neptune in the 12th is an important placement because it can really help assist the collective at this time by turning the unseen currents that are around us into reality in many ways, but really, being able to see these things. So this is a wisdom placement. This is a guidance placement. This is something that can be very, very good. This is going to impact Taurus risings. I'm actually a Taurus rising, so this is going to be a transit through my 12th house. And yeah, I think that, this year is my high priestess year. It's my 2 year. It's also about justice and balance. And so this is going to be an interesting year to see what is continuing to come through. I feel like the channel just keeps opening and opening and opening. And this is definitely a year, especially with this transit, Neptune being here for the next 14 years, where that's going to really accelerate for sure. So the key here is don't feel overwhelmed or overconsumed by all that energy. We can see the beauty in the world or not, but Saturn again is going to give us much more structure and discipline around these things. And this is the ultimate evolutionary placement. Major, major transformation can happen in the subconscious mind as we burn away those thoughts and beliefs and patterns that have kept us stuck. And we can implement a way to work with Neptune at a very high level, which will be beautiful for the collective. So anyway, we have lots of changes coming, and I haven't really talked about the Uranus transit yet, which I will be in another episode. But just know, yeah, we are definitely on the precipice of, we're here. We're not on the precipice anymore. We're here. We've initiated this, and it is thrilling and exciting and all the things. And I am excited, so excited. And I can feel this whole shift energetically, this whole shift that's happened where we really are bringing something brand new into the world. And some astrologers have talked about that this is really the rise of the divine feminine as well, that it is the rebalancing of the feminine and the masculine. And I do truly believe that that is the case. We have suppressed the feminine for so long in all of us. We have enslaved it. We have exploited it. And all the things that are coming out right now are really putting that at the forefront. Children and women have been exploited, enslaved, mistreated, held down. We've been pinned against each other. We have mistrust of each other. All of those things have happened over a very long period of time. And the feminine is rising. And in many ways, it's time for the masculine to do their work, to be able to step up and to meet the feminine. But the feminine has to, those of us who are in a feminine incarnation, we have to step into our own femininity, no longer taking on the masculine responsibilities. We have to be in the flow and be in our feminine state. And this is another big shift that we're going through with this transit happening. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. If you want to look more at your birth chart, you can go to astro.com and look at that. If you're interested in a natal or progress chart reading, I do offer those off my website at StinaMeyers.com. Anyway, I'm wishing you guys all a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful time as you navigate through this transit. Take care, everybody.